2 months ago, I created the Education Redesign Team to conduct a comprehensive assessment of the administrative functions of the City of Yonkers Board of Education and the city itself. I want to give a special thanks, obviously, to this board, who spent as many as 3 days a week on this project, hours a day, devoting their own time to this project, and frankly going through a lot of boring papers. But they did it, and they did a great job. And so today I'm pleased to have the Yonkers Education Redesign teams present their Phase 1 report. And in order for us to free up money necessary to provide for our children's education, it's first important to see how those dollars are spent to begin with. And in the last 2 months, I've asked this Blue Ribbon panel to propose suggestions with the objective of developing specific cost efficiencies relating to collective operation of both the city and the BOE, and to give us that Phase 1 through the CRT. What we've learned, and as Deputy Mayor Sue Gary will outline, is that regardless of how well the Board of Education has done in the past and the city, collectively we can do better working together. So, and that's by merging some of the services that we both provide. So once these Phase 1 recommendations are addressed, we can then begin to refocus our efforts on the major objective, which is to maximize the resources of improving the educational experience of our children. So first, let me ask the chairperson of the ERT and the deputy mayor of our city to present the team's initial findings. So, Sue?
Thank you. So as the mayor said, the purpose of the Education Redesign Team in Phase 1 was to identify cost efficiencies. So the Education Redesign Team looked at 5 different functional areas in making these recommendations, which include legal, human resources, facilities management and utilities, purchasing, and information technology. And they also then took those recommendations and examined various state grant funding programs which could potentially be utilized to fund further study and implementation of the recommendations. The first functional area that we looked at was the legal function. We learned that the city and the Board of Education spend collectively about $1.9 million a year in outside counsel services. While many of those cannot be eliminated due to specialized needs for legal counsel, a few really strong recommendations came out which would produce immediate cost savings. The first would be to consider ways to reduce the outside counsel costs in the Board of Education by potentially hiring staff internally and or reducing the cost of the staff that provides their basic fundamental legal services. Second, to explore strategies for both the city and the BOE to reduce their outside counsel costs. There's a few strategies outlined. One was to reach out to their current legal services firms to immediately negotiate a reduction in the cost and fees that apply now. Second was to establish a government rate for new engagements, to tell the attorneys what we think they should be paid rather than asking them for the fee. And finally, to consider staffing up a bit in our Corp Counsel's office to see if there's more that we can do internally. Finally, the workers' compensation function, which is something that's already provided as a shared service between the city and the Board of Education, is something that runs the city in excess of $6 or $8 million a year overall between administration and legal fees. And both in the human resources function and in the legal function, we worked to identify areas that should be examined in the workers' compensation function, both to reduce the costs overall and to potentially improve worker safety, and to really install metrics to help reduce the need to have workers' compensation costs at all. The next area was human resources. Again, we talked about the workers' compensation item. Another recommendation was to consider consolidating all of the staffing of the city and the Board of Education human resources professionals, with a special note that we will always need specialized human resources staff to hire and administer teachers, because it's just a very specialized function. We also are going to look further at improving benefits programming in both the city and the BOE to make sure that our employees are getting the best coverage at the best rates. We're also going to consider, from a technological standpoint, merging the payroll systems. Both the city and the BOE have separate payroll systems. That's kind of a longer-term implementation item because it involves a capital cost and a really complex merger in terms of technical systems. The next functional area is facilities management and utilities. Currently, the city is undergoing a facilities utilization assessment for all of our leased and owned space where we occupy the space. The ERT recommended that the Board of Education be included within that facility utilization study to make sure that overall citywide we're using our space best, that we're minimizing rental payments and really just maximizing the use of our space. The second recommendation is kind of a branching out of that first recommendation in that we both use an extraordinary amount of facilities for the storage of records, food, furniture, and various items, and that the utilization study should include a specific focus on those items. Next, we, as the ERT, recommended merging the vehicle maintenance function. The city maintains a garage with a very elaborate system for repairs and securing machinery and spare parts for vehicles, and so we recommend that the BOE's much smaller function be absorbed into that city function. We also recommend collaborating on energy savings measures, whether it's negotiating with Con Ed for joint rates, as well as merging our sustainability plans. The city also currently provides solid waste disposal services through 2 departments, and the ERT recommends merging those functions. And for snow removal service, it's provided through the BOE, the Parks Department in the city, as well as DPW. And we are going to work towards developing some kind of territory maintenance planning that would increase efficiency, merge the overlap of the same trucks on the same street to do the same function just for different silos, and hopefully get everyone snowplowed faster. In the purchasing arena, we're looking at all kinds of ways to merge our functions, whether it be more joint purchases between the city and the BOE, or expanding on existing consortia. There's currently a 27 municipality consortium that purchases paper collectively. We're going to work to see if we can purchase other things collectively and really bring down our costs. Finally, we're going to look at other ways to streamline the procurement process, whether it's the consolidation of staff or just the infrastructure systems they use to undertake purchasing. Finally, in information technology, the education redesign team recommended that the city hire a chief information officer to streamline and bring the city really into the new age of technology, whether it be adopting what the Board of Education has done to put its applications on the cloud, to merge our current systems. Our phones are managed in one city department while our computers are managed in another, and a chief information officer could really lead the way to merging those functions so that we're exploring the best technology such as voice over internet protocol for our phones, and really making sure that our computers and our phones and our Blackberries and all of our systems work in the most technologically advanced way. In implementing all of these recommendations, the ERT identified 3 different New York State grants programs which could potentially be utilized to help fund further study or the implementation of these recommendations, and those are the New York State Local Government's Records Management Improvement Fund, the New York State Local Government Efficiency Grant Program, and the New York State Government Performance and Efficiency Program. Thank you.
And thank you, Sue, and thanks for the hard work to the committee. It's very much appreciated. And remember, we're not, our priority is education. And this committee was put together not to take dollars away from the Board of Education, but to figure out where we could find efficiencies, where we could put, where we could come up with ways that we could liberate dollars so that the superintendent is able to use those dollars to hire teachers. And that's one of our main goals of this first phase. So with that, I'd like to invite the superintendent of schools, Bernard Prosio, to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I'd like to thank our mayor for taking this very bold step in looking at the ways to save dollars and funnel them into education. Secondly, I'd like to thank the committee for their hard work, their dedication. All of them are very pro-education, I know, and they're looking for ways to save dollars so we can fund them towards education. And again, Sue, thank you for your hard work and your dedication. You know, this is just the beginning, and we're looking at many areas. These are the 5 areas that are more specific. I'd like to recognize that, you know, the Board of Education, because of the cutbacks over the years, have found many efficiencies, and I'm glad that our Deputy Mayor pointed out that we will take the lead in some areas in finding those efficiencies. But working together works. And my feeling is, as the Mayor said, that we can continue to work together. We can find efficiencies to free up those dollars for the children of our city. So again, I'm looking forward to presenting this to our trustees so they can review the plan in total, and then we have continue to have more dialogue, move ahead with other additional phases of the ERT team, and make sure that we can free up more dollars for education. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your work.
Thank you. Now, as for the next steps, the ERT will now oversee the implementation of these recommendations. There will also, and this is a very important point, I don't want to let it just go as kind of like as a footnote. One of the things we talked about during the campaign was the fact that we needed to have a blue ribbon panel in place that would vet possible candidates for trustees. The way it's been, there used to be a blue ribbon panel years back. Over the years, it became more of the mayor just appointing who he felt should be in that position. I said during the campaign that I wouldn't do that I would have a blue ribbon panel that would vet these potential candidates for trustee. And this is the blue ribbon panel. This is the ERT. The ERT will vet. Right now we've gotten, I think, over 30 applicants. Hopefully after people watching News 12 today, we'll get even more. And then they will go on and vet and make recommendations to the administration as to who the next trustee will be. We have an opening coming up at the end of the month, and so I'd like to be prepared for that. So also, as we move forward into phase 2 of the RT, which would be more looking at the educational opportunities of our youth, we're going to look to put a student on the RT, more teachers and more administrators, and their concentrated focus will be on education funding and academics. And so phase 2 is scheduled to begin sometime in the summertime. So I want to thank the members for volunteering, for doing all this work free of charge. We could use it. We could use the free work, and know that we very much appreciate it, and this is a great first start as we move to reinvent our city and reinvent how we take care of our children's education. So thank you.